Hi friends, I decided to make another video because I realized that I have so many arcs that I've gotten recently, and I don't think I've shown you any of them. What is an ARC, you ask? Well, it's an advanced reader copy, and it's essentially a piece of marketing material that publishers use and authors use to get the word out on the streets about their books before the book is actually released. It's basically an uncorrected proof copy of a book that they give to select readers beforehand. And like, anyone can get ARCs. You guys can definitely get ARCs as well. The most common way is to request them through NetGalley and other similar websites. I personally have never really done that. I get most of my ARCs through work. I work for Indigo, as y'all know. The reason I'm mentioning that is because I want to clarify that I'm not requesting a crap ton of ARCs and then forgetting about them. They kind of just show up sometimes, and then I forget about them. I want to show these ARCs to you because I do feel that I have a responsibility as the reader receiving these ARCs to talk about them. That's the whole point. And maybe I'm not excited about every single one of these, but I do have them. I think 3 or 4 of these actually did come out very recently, like they were officially published quite recently. So I'm still going to talk about them because they're brand new books and you can still get them. And then the rest are coming out in the next couple of months, starting on August 13th. Let's just start because there are a lot of books to talk about today. And I'm going to talk about these in publication order. So the first book that I have for you actually did come out June 18th, 2024. And it's How to Make a Horror Movie and Survive by Craig DeLuey. I got this arc obviously before June. I got it a long time ago and I did not read it. Sorry to Red Hook and Craig DeLuey. It's a contemporary-ish horror. It's based on 80s slasher horror movies, and it follows a director who should be at the top of his game, but it's the 80s, so there are a lot of slasher movies out there, and he wants to make the scariest one ever. We also follow Sally Priest, who is a wannabe actress, wannabe final girl, and she scores the role of the final girl in Max Maury's movie. It's supposedly very campy, very funny, very scream queen slasher, 80s horror nonsense. And the crux of this all is that they're using an occult camera that might be and probably is demonic. It's not really my vibe, I won't lie. I know it's not contemporary technically, but it is because it's the 80s. 80s is contemporary, right? I'm not one of those girlies that's like, oh my God, Scream is my entire personality. Sorry, that was really mean. I'm not one of those girlies though. So this seems cool, seems like a good book. And if you're into this type of horror, I would absolutely go for it. Craig DeLuey is a Bram Stoker Award winner, and that is like one of the highest accolades in horror literature. The second book that's already out is another one that's like so not my genre, but I have the arc for it and I do want to read it. So I have The Lost Story by Megan Schaefer, and this came out on July 16th from Ballantine Books. One thing I want to point out that I think is funny, Ballantine and Penguin Random House in general always just do not put in the effort with their arcs, and like, you don't have to. It's a trend that I've noticed more recently where physical arcs are being packaged like real books and they're a big deal, and I'll show you some examples that I have coming up where they package them very differently. But Penguin and Ballantine are like, this is a book. This is a magical realism portal fiction, not fantasy. Like, it is fantasy obviously because it's magical realism and portal fiction, but it is technically gen lit, and that's not my thing. But what does stick out to me about this book is that it's noted by the author that this was inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia, which I freaking love. My Explore Care Paravel display, I don't know if that's in frame, but I love Narnia. When they were children, 2 boys, Rafe and Jeremy, went missing in the woods of West Virginia, only to reappear 6 months later with no memory of what happened to them. Fast forward 15 years, Rafe is a reclusive artist and Jeremy is an investigator who has decided to help a vet tech named Emily locate her missing sister, who went missing in the exact same part of the West Virginia woods that Rafe and Jeremy disappeared in 15 years ago. So Rafe and Jeremy obviously have to return to wherever they went 15 years ago along with Emily. There's a lot of tension and magic I'm not really sure where it goes from there, except for that I do know they go to this place. Like, it is fantasy in a way, because we've got this map in the front of Shenandoah. Shenandoah? I have heard it pronounced Shenandoah or Shenandoah. There is something about this book that is drawing me in. I do want to read it. I don't know if it's because the map is so cute or because it's set in West Virginia and I've got a little soft spot for West Virginia or what, but I generally don't like magical realism, but I do like portal fiction, and we don't see a lot of it these days, especially for adults. So I do want to give this a try. I just didn't get to it before the release date, which, as I said, was July 16th. So again, available now. The third arc that I have was released on my birthday. This came out August 6th, and it is The Black Feathers by Rebecca Netley. Now, if you remember, Rebecca Netley wrote a book that I did enjoy last year called The Whistling, and it's a Scottish book, and I listened to the audiobook, so it's the one where I always call it The Whistling, The Black Feathers. That's my Scottish accent. So she is quite quickly following up The Whistling with another gothic horror, and it sounds quite nice. And by nice, I mean interesting and spooky. A young woman marries a widower and moves into his creepy old house on a windswept estate on the Yorkshire moors. She thinks she's finally put the darkness of her past behind her, but the widower's sister still lives in the family home. She's a taxidermist and a medium. Love her. And she urges Annie, the main character, to watch out for black feathers, probably because of that shout line, where ghosts tread, black feathers fall. Spooky things start happening in the house, and Annie starts to wonder what exactly happened to her new husband's first wife and young son, and what the heck is going on with this sister. I gave The Whistling like 3.5 stars. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like the best horror book I've ever read. I'm hopeful for this one as well. I think it's going to be on par. I think it's going to be about the same. So I'm not expecting 5 stars, but I'm not expecting 1 star. Okay. Now you'll notice that all of those so far have been physical arcs. Physical books. But I also receive a lot of digital arcs, 2 of which are fantasy books coming out on August 13th. The first one I've talked about very recently because I interviewed the author, R.R. Verdi. But The Doors of Midnight, which is the second book in the Tales of Tremaine series, is coming out August 13th. I received a digital arc for the book tour that I was part of, and I loved it. I thought it was awesome. The first book in the series is called The First Binding, and it's a South Asian inspired memoir type story where we've got our main character telling his life story to other characters, but also living his present day life as we go. I really enjoyed the first book. I gave it 4 stars overall. I haven't rated the second book yet. I'm still processing it. But the physical copies come out August 13th, and they're very, very, very beautiful. Definitely, if you're a fan of Patrick Rothfuss, Name of the Wind, if you're a fan of Sons of Darkness, S.A. Chakraborty, even Jay Kristoff, honestly, I think you'd be a fan of The First Binding and The Doors of Midnight, so check that one out. Also, August 13th, The Phoenix Keeper by somebody. I forget the author's name. I'm so sorry, and I don't have it on me right now. But this is a like cozy fantasy, possibly romantasy, that's coming out from Orbit. It is set at a magical zoo, and it also has a sapphic rivals to lovers romance. The main character, Isla, is a phoenix keeper at this magical zoo, and it is her lifelong dream. And I think essentially the plot is that there's a different zoo, a better zoo, that has all these phoenixes, but a heist goes wrong there, and that facility is sabotaged. So then her worst zoo now has to take in all the phoenixes, and she's getting to take care of them and living her dreams. But also her academic rival, a griffin keeper, is there, and she's hot, I guess. And it's basically like We Bought a Zoo meets Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's like, can we keep this dying zoo alive with these new phoenixes? I don't know. It sounds awesome. It's really cute. Very cozy. Sapphic. Check it out. I have another physical one that's coming out August 13th that I put on the floor. Ugh. And this one is an anthology, and it's general fiction, so kind of random again. And I don't remember requesting this, but it arrived for me at work, and it is called Waiting for the Long Night Moon by Amanda Peters. Amanda Peters wrote The Berry Pickers, which was a huge book last year. It's lit fic, it's book club fiction, mom fiction, and she's also an Indigenous author. So this is a collection of Indigenous short fiction. That's hard to say. Indigenous short fiction. There we go. This is a really beautiful and important collection of stories. It confronts topics like systemic racism, residential school survivors, traditional ways of life. I'm a big fan of short fiction anthologies, and while this one is not necessarily my usual genre. I am very inclined to read Indigenous fiction as a person living on stolen land. So I'm looking forward to getting into this book. And I gave my mom Amanda Peters' other book, The Berry Pickers, for Christmas last year, and she loved it. I'm going to my cottage later in the week, so I'm going to bring this one with me, I think. Also available August 13th is another fantasy, Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright. This is from Orbit, and it's a vampire story. I really don't know much about this. I know that it's really pretty, and I think that's why I got it. I don't remember. Honestly, I'm gonna do a horrible job promoting this because like I don't know. It's a vampire book. There's blood magic and spy networks and evil kings, eternal kings. I don't know. Vampire romance fantasy. Next up, I've got an indie arc. Joshua Walker sent me a copy of book 1 in the Song of the Sleepers series. A prequel novella has previously been released, The Rest of the Gods, but book 1 is what's coming out very, very soon. It's coming out on September 2nd. Nope. September 3rd, and it's called An Exile of Water and Gold. I'm really excited for this one because I did read the prequel novella and I thought it was very well done, and I've flipped through the first little bit of the digital arc that I received of An Exile of Water and Gold, and I really, really enjoy the way Joshua writes. I like the style and prose, and the setup is really interesting so far. The story is set on the continent of Kara, where I don't know how to pronounce this, but the main race of people, the Albions of the Great Tree, have shared the continent with humans. The main character, Drift, is an Albion who has been exiled from his people and basically sent down to Earth, or to Kara, to live amongst the human people. He doesn't know why he's been condemned, but he has to make a life for himself down there, and his betrothed, Tari, is sort of following him and trying to figure out a way to bring him back home. There's also a sort of corrupt organization storyline going on in the background from what I can tell, and Drift, the main character, is a part of that. It's out on September 3rd, and it is Indie August right now. I'm going to be doing a full Indie August video later this month to promote some other indie works that I'm reading right now. This is in there, but I figured I might as well talk about it in this video as well because I do have an advanced reader copy of it. From Head of Zeus and Shauna Lawless, I also received an advanced reader copy of The Land of the Living and the Dead, which is the third book in the Gale... What did I just do? Third book in the Gale Song trilogy. I adored the first book, The Children of Gods and Fighting Men. It's one of my top reads of last year for sure. And I haven't gotten into the third one yet, but I have read the 2 novellas that are out as well. I received arcs of those a while back, so Dreams of Fire and Dreams of Sorrow. I'm obsessed with this series, you guys. It is set in medieval Ireland and is Fae related, like Fae adjacent, but not romantic-y Fae. Like real fae. There's fire magic, there is scheming, politicking, horrible women. It's so good. Oh my god. I don't even have words. I'm losing my mind. But Shauna's writing is beautiful. The audiobooks are incredible. I'm really excited to get this last one in a physical copy as well as the digital copy that I have because they're also just stunning books. And yeah, that's out September 12th. Next, I have the book that I was referring to when I talked about beautiful packaging on ARCs. Look at this. Look at this. This is The Black Hunger by Nicholas Pullen, and it is from Red Hook, and it is horror. This is coming out sometime in October. I don't have the date. It's not on the book. It's taking me a little bit of time to get into it. It's a historical horror, which is awesome. But the thing that I'm struggling with is it has no chapters. It's just 4 parts. And I'm not a fan of that setup. I'm not a fan of that style because it makes it really, really difficult to feel like I'm making progress on the book. It's cool. The character is now old and telling his life story, and the life story is cool. It's just really difficult to stay engaged. Also, because it's an arc, the writing is very small and the printing is like a bit faded on some of the pages. It's not the most well put together arc I've ever received, so it's just hard to read it. But I still think it's really cool and really interesting, and I love historical fiction right now, and if there's a horror element to it, oh my gosh, I'm in love. So this is coming out right around Halloween, spooky October read. Definitely pick it up once it's available if you're a horror girly like myself, or honestly just a historical fiction girly. Okay, oh my gosh, my throat hurts from talking. But the next one I'm very, 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 very excited about, and so are you. Coming out October 22nd is The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is the third book in the Bloodsworn saga. Your favorite, my favorite. We love John Gwynne in this house. This was such an anticipated read of mine. I was so excited when I got the email for work that I had access now to Fury of the Gods. I downloaded it immediately, started reading it immediately. I don't even want to give you too much info because I know that this is a hugely anticipated read for so many of you guys, so I'm not gonna like spoil anything or talk about it too much, but it's sick as heck. I'm almost done. I've got 2 more books, 2 more digital copies. Oh, and they're extremely similar to each other. On October 22nd as well, we have The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door by H.G. Perry. Yeah, we've got 2 Fae books coming out from Orbit, Fae romantasy stuff. I don't know why I got these. The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door is historical fantasy, so maybe I'll like it, but it's not my favorite era. It's set in 1920. Does this mean we're gonna see the return of my 1920s accent from the last video? Gilded and glittering, England's secret magical academy is no place for Clover, a commoner with neither connections nor magical blood. This is like also giving Harry Potter vibes. She's looking for a cure for something that happened to her brother who survived a fairy attack on the battlegrounds of World War I. Sure. It is I don't know if I would say it's dark academia, but it's like Fae academia. She catches the eye of Golden Boy sorry, this name. I'm so over names in fantasy books. She catches the eye of Golden Boy Alden Lennox Fontaine. And they bring her into the world of magical aristocrats, and I'm not super excited for this one, but it's fairy courts and dark academia. So that's out October 22nd from Orbit, from H.G. Perry. I think you guys will like it. It sounds objectively quite good, quite interesting. It's just not for me. And the last book is another Fae book, and this is out on November 19th. It has a very similar title to the other one. It's The Last Hour Between Worlds, and it's by Melissa Caruso. Now, funnily enough, I just unhauled on my Melissa Caruso fantasy because I haven't read it, but now I have this. Here's another fun fantasy name, Kimbrel Thorne. She is a star investigator and new mom. She's got a newborn baby. She's spending it a few hours away from her newborn baby at a party, but the guests start dropping dead. This is another Rivals to Lovers because her professional and personal nemesis, who's also an investigator and a woman, is there. So it's also sapphic. And they identify that what's causing some mysterious stuff is an old grandfather clock. This does sound more interesting to me than the last one because I do enjoy like a good murder mystery. It's also set on a backdrop of this party. It's like a locked room mystery, but there's also reality bending and macabre rituals, lots of blood apparently. So this one, although it's also apparently Fae, does seem more intriguing to me. We have 2 sapphic Rivals to Lovers romances here. We do. And that's all the arcs I have for now. I'm literally getting more in the mail. I'm getting a bunch of Angry Robot arcs in the mail soon, and a couple more Orbit arcs, and some HarperCollins arcs. And actually, speaking of the Doors of Midnight and R.R. Verdi, he is sending me an original arc for the first binding. Obviously, that's already out, but just as a collector's item, I'm getting an arc for the first binding. So many arcs! I really do want to do better with keeping up with these because the point, again, is marketing. The point is to read them early so that I can tell you guys about them. So maybe I haven't read all of these yet, but most of them are coming out in the future, starting August 13th. Maybe 4 of them have already come out and I forgot to talk about them. But either way, I hope you guys thought some of those books sounded interesting. Let me know in the comments if you're planning on reading any of them or if you have any arcs yourself that you want to talk about. A lot of these I'm super excited for. Some of them I think are ultimately going to slip through the cracks for me, unfortunately, but maybe not for you. Maybe they sounded interesting from what I said. So before I go, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell icon so you know when I upload new videos. I upload 2 days a week. I love you guys. Goodbye.